Logan swung his arm forward, a punch straight out of a cheap action flick. But Malik? He didn't flinch. He sidestepped smoothly, his foot sweeping low across the ground. Logan crashed down like a sack of rice falling off a shelf, his back slamming into the tiled floor. I thought Malik would dodge again, but no. He leaned to the side, then drove his elbow into Chase's ribs, not brutally, but precise, enough to make Chase crumple, clutching his side, face purple with pain. Ty wasn't so bold anymore. He threw his hands up, backing away like he was about to yell, "I'm innocent! Yo, chill, man!" It all took less than 15 seconds. Felt like I just binged an entire season of an action show. None of the other students dared say a word. We all saw it. Malik wasn't the one starting trouble, but when pushed, he handled it with clean, unmistakable precision. And then, right on cue, Mr. Langford appeared. His voice boomed like the morning bell. "What's going on here?" Malik stood still. No panting, no waving his arms to explain, no glancing around for help. His hands weren't clenched, his face wasn't angry. He didn't need to shout to prove anything. The way Logan and Chase were gasping on the ground, he said enough. He's crazy," Chase hissed, sounding like he was trying to convince himself. Malik just turned to Mr. Langford, eyes calm. "I was defending myself." Malik turned to Mr. Langford, eyes calm. "I was defending myself." Logan swung his arm forward, a punch straight out of a cheap action flick. But Malik? He didn't flinch. He sidestepped smoothly, his foot sweeping low across the ground. Logan crashed down like a sack of rice falling off a shelf, his back slamming into the tiled floor. I heard Ty swallow hard. Chase froze, hesitating. Then, as if someone hit an attack button, he roared and charged like an out-of-control bull. I thought Malik would dodge again, but no. He leaned to the side, then drove his elbow into Chase's ribs. Not brutally, but precise, enough to make Chase crumple, clutching his side, face purple with pain. Ty wasn't so bold anymore. He threw his hands up, backing away like he was about to yell, "I'm innocent! Yo, chill, man!" It all took less than 15 seconds. Felt like I just binged an entire season of an action show. None of the other students dared say a word. We all saw it. Malik wasn't the one starting trouble, but when pushed, he handled it with clean, unmistakable precision. And then, right on cue, Mr. Langford appeared. His voice boomed like the morning bell. "What's going on here?" Malik stood still. No panting, no waving his arms to explain, no glancing around for help. His hands weren't clenched. His face wasn't angry. He didn't need to shout to prove anything. The way Logan and Chase were gasping on the ground, it said enough. He's crazy," Chase hissed, sounding like he was trying to convince himself. Malik just turned to Mr. Langford, eyes calm. "I was defending myself." No one paid much attention to Malik Johnson as he stepped through the gates of Millstone High School in Lansing, Michigan. No curious stares, no whispers. He was just another transfer student arriving mid-semester. His backpack was frayed at the edges, his hoodie worn thin, and he walked with the cautious air of someone used to reading a room before ever speaking. It was a bitterly cold Monday morning. Snow still clung to the sidewalks in dirty clusters, and the school bell rang sharp through the hallways. Malik stopped in front of his locker, eyes quietly scanning the stream of students rushing by. He wasn't afraid. He simply knew the rules. Find your class, draw no attention, always stay out of the way. In his first math class, he entered the room. A few students looked up. A girl in the corner leaned over to whisper to her friend. The teacher pointed toward an empty seat at the back, offering no introduction. Malik didn't mind. He was used to it. Back in Detroit, where he grew up, silence meant safety. His uncle used to call it moving like a shadow. A survival instinct for kids who knew the wrong look could lead to the wrong kind of trouble. Millstone High wasn't like Detroit. Everything here gleamed. The students dressed like catalog models, their hair neat like they just walked out of a salon, laughing like the school belonged to them. Malik didn't hear any insults, but he felt the judgment in their eyes. From his beat-up shoes to the faded hoodie. In gym class, one classmate gave him a look like he was some relic from a different time. By the third day, Malik ate lunch alone. Last table in the cafeteria, tray simple, spaghetti, a banana, and a carton of chocolate milk. He chewed slowly, eyes still watching the room. Then came the laugh, loud, clear, and laced with mockery. "Yo, you bring that food from home or what?" Malik looked up. A broad-shouldered kid in a varsity jacket, Chase Reynolds, stood a few steps away, smirking. Two others flanked him, clearly backup, chuckling like they were front row at a comedy show. Malik didn't respond. "Man, you eat like it's the Great Depression or something," Chase said louder, prompting a few nearby tables to laugh along. Still, Malik kept eating, head down, no reaction, no reply. One of the two, Dylan West, leaned in, teeth clenched. "Yo, you deaf or just dumb?" Malik shot him a glance, then stood, picking up his milk. "I'm done eating." No reaction, no anger. He left the tray and walked away, silent. Chase and his crew stood there, caught a little off guard. They were expecting something, anger, an outburst. But Malik gave them nothing, and that was the real slap in the face for Chase. Ever since that PE class, the hallways of Millstone High had felt like a stage. Malik still walked the same backpack slung over one shoulder, earbuds loosely in. But the air around him had changed. No longer were the stares those of curiosity for the new kid. Now they were watchful, hesitant, even afraid. "That dude fights like a soldier. Heard he did time in juvie? My boy said he looked at him once and he switched seats." No one said these things to Malik, but he heard them all. Saw the sidelong glances, the way footsteps shifted when he walked by, and in the far corner of the cafeteria, Chase was still laughing, telling his reimagined version of the story. "He stood like a statue," Chase declared, miming with his lunch tray like it was a rifle. "I hadn't even touched him yet and he spun and kicked. Logan flew like in some action movie." The boys around him burst out laughing. Some looked at each other, half believing, half doubting. But Chase didn't need the truth. He only needed control of the narrative. Friday afternoon, Malik stayed behind to help Mr. Patel stack chairs after the last class. When he rounded the gym building to catch the late bus, he realized he'd been welcome. Three of them, Chase, Logan, and Ty, standing near the dumpsters, pretending to just be there, but their eyes said otherwise. This wasn't a coincidence. "Yo, Malik," Chase called out, his tone sounding casual, like they were just chatting. Malik stopped, 10 steps away, backpack still in hand. "You've been ignoring me all week. What's up with that?" Chase took a step forward. "I talk, and you just walk away. What's that mean?" Malik stayed calm. "I didn't come here for you." "Well, you're here now," Chase said, stepping closer. Logan and Ty drifted apart, forming a triangle around him. "I just want to know what you think you're better than, sitting by yourself, watching everyone, acting all deep and shit." Malik met his eyes. "If you've got something to prove, then prove it." The air thickened. Logan moved first, a shove to Malik's chest. Not hard, but aggressive. Malik didn't react. "Stop." His voice was low, clear. The second time, Logan swung. But before the punch could land, Malik pivoted, swept low, and sent Logan crashing down like a bag of rice. Ty froze. Chase hesitated for just 1 second, then roared and charged like a bull. Malik stepped aside and drove his elbow into Chase's ribs, precise, controlled. Chase dropped, clutching his side, gasping. Ty backed away, hands up. "Yo, chill, man." It all happened in under 15 seconds. Right then, Mr. Langford, the assistant principal, appeared. "What is going on here?" he boomed. Malik stood still, hands open, face neutral. He didn't need to speak. The way the other three were on the ground said enough. "He's crazy," Chase wheezed, as if convincing himself. Malik looked at Mr. Langford and said just one thing. "I defended myself." And then the school bell rang, blending into the bite of the early winter wind. But the real story at Millstone High was only just beginning. After the incident behind the gym, the news spread faster than any TikTok video. And though Malik hadn't said a word, his story was told. By others, in their own way. Monday morning, 2 security guards stood stiff at the main gate. Students slowed as they passed, whispering. Malik walked through. The eyes on him weren't curious anymore. They were suspicious, afraid. All students involved in last week's incident are under review. A formal hearing will be held Thursday. Principal Langford's voice rang over the morning PA. Malik wasn't surprised. What did surprise him was how fast Chase had launched a self-cleansing campaign. Chase whispered to teachers, "I don't feel safe being in the same class as Malik." He told classmates he got kicked out of his last school. Then came social media, a blurry video clip showing Malik taking down Logan, conveniently edited to cut out Logan's first move. By Wednesday, the school called Malik's mom. By Thursday, the hearing was set. He had to show up with a guardian. Uncle Reggie showed up in a clean shirt, beard trimmed, looking less like a man and more like a bodyguard ready for war, not to fight, but to defend the truth. In a gray-lit conference room at the district office, a long table separated Malik, Uncle Reggie, and a stack of papers, detailing everything from the start, from Principal Langford, a board member, and the head of student conduct. "We've received multiple concerns about Malik Johnson being a safety risk to the school," the disciplinary officer began, reading from a script. Uncle Reggie leaned in, unwavering. "My nephew is not a threat. He's trained to defend himself. He didn't start anything. He warned them, then responded." A board member, voice tinged with doubt, asked, "Is it true he has formal martial arts training?" "Yes," Reggie replied without blinking. "But martial arts isn't for fighting, it's for control, for knowing when not to hit." Malik finally spoke, his voice steady. "They came at me. I didn't throw the first punch. I didn't want to fight, but I couldn't just stand there either." Langford tapped his fingers on the table. "Even so, you must understand the school enforces a zero-tolerance policy. Regardless of who started it, consequences happen." Malik met his gaze. "So I should have let them beat me?" Silence hung heavy. Uncle Reggie leaned back, his voice low and firm. "The problem isn't the punch, it's the perception. It's the skin. It's the silence of a system that doesn't believe a black kid standing up for himself isn't dangerous." No decision was made that day. They said they'd review everything carefully. Outside, as weak sunlight washed over the parking lot, Reggie placed a hand on Malik's shoulder. "You did good." "Doesn't feel like it," Malik replied. "They heard you. They won't admit it, but they did." That night, Malik didn't eat. He sat out back, staring at the sky, hand clenched lightly. He didn't regret defending himself, but for the first time, he began to wonder if justice was really made for him. That afternoon in chemistry class, Malik had just set his books on the desk when someone nudged him from behind. Not hard enough to knock him over, but enough to send his books crashing to the floor. He didn't need to turn around to recognize Dylan West's familiar snicker, and though no one spoke up and the teacher didn't notice, Malik silently bent down, picked up his books, and placed them neatly back on the desk, his lack of reaction infuriating them most. After school, heading to the bus stop behind the building, Malik froze as he passed the gym, seeing "Charity Case" scrawled in black marker on his locker, with a sigh not of hurt, but exhaustion. He wiped it off with his sleeve, the ink fading quickly, though the stain in his chest lingered. That evening he took the bus to the end of the street, stepping off at the old garage where his Uncle Reggie ran a small gym behind a tire shop, filled with the smell of leather, metal, and heavy breathing. "You good?" Reggie asked, wrapping tape around a trainee's hands. "Just school," Malik replied. "No need to elaborate," and Reggie nodded, saying, "Get on the mat. Leave that noise there." Malik changed and stepped onto the mat, his hooks and jabs not for show, but for keeping his mind steady, his body trained to never back down, though he wasn't one to start fights. By the next morning, rumors had spread in the locker room, classrooms, and student group chats, claiming Malik had an attitude. With Chase, was the new kid acting tough? Or worse, that he'd been expelled from his old school for fighting or even hit a teacher? All lies, but Millstone High didn't need truth, just a juicy rumor. That afternoon in gym class, Malik was paired with Chase for a basketball passing drill. Let's see how good you are, Chase sneered, throwing the ball harder than necessary, but Malik caught it silently, dribbled twice and passed it back with such precision that it hit Chase square in the chest with a heavy thump, making Chase flinch as a few kids snickered. Chase forced a laugh, but from that moment he decided he didn't like Malik one bit. The following week at Millstone High passed in a heavy silence, not the kind that signaled peace, but one where words failed everyone. No sneers greeted Malik as he entered class, no feet tripped him, no hands provoked, no whispers trailed him, yet no smiles met him either. No hellos broke the quiet. He was no longer the new kid or the troublemaker, but a living symbol of something undefined, teetering on the razor-thin edge between justice and danger. In gym class Monday, Coach Rawlins glanced at him and said, "You, free train today, no group," offering no explanation, just isolation disguised as structure. In the cafeteria, as Malik walked in, the usual jokes didn't fly. His old table stood empty and cold, and though he sat with his tray, quiet and steady, the eyes watching him didn't look away. At the center table, Chase Simmons sat silent. Logan, back at school, kept his eyes down, avoiding all. And Ty had shifted to a table of underclassmen. The silence around Malik had spread even to those who once stirred violence. But this wasn't justice. It was unresolved tension. At day's end, as Malik shut his locker, Delaney passed by, offering a small wave without words. He returned a faint smile, a silent exchange that began healing with a look asking nothing in return. That evening, Uncle Reggie sat on the sofa, holding the school board's letter, saying, "You should feel good about this, huh?" His eyes fixed on the signature. Malik on the back step stared at the street lamp's faint glow and said, "I feel empty." "You won, Malik," Reggie replied, but Malik, eyes on the concrete, answered, "I didn't want to win like that." Reggie nodded. "Because it wasn't a fight. It was a lie, one you were forced to correct." Malik turned to him. "People look at me like I'm about to explode." "Because you're stronger than they are," Reggie said, "and sometimes that scares people." The next morning, Miss Curtis, the sharp-eyed literature teacher with a gentle voice, called Malik to her room, pulled out a chair and placed a paper before him, saying, "Malik, we're organizing a student-led assembly. One speaker canceled. I'd like to invite you to speak." He blinked. "Speak? In front of the whole school?" "Only if you want to," she said. "No pressure. But I think after everything, people should hear the real story. From you." Malik gave a quiet nod, no immediate answer. That night, in his bedroom, he sat cross-legged on the floor, a blank notebook open, no script, no bullet points. After nearly an hour, he wrote one line in the page's center. "I didn't come here to be the center of attention, but now that I'm here, I won't back down." The next morning, Millstone High's auditorium was filled wall to wall with students under the warm glow of stage lights. There was chatter, low and buzzing, and teachers stationed along the back walls, arms folded, waiting. Everyone knew someone was going to speak today, but no one expected the name they'd hear: Malik Tolliver. When the announcer read it aloud, heads lifted. Whispers crackled like static through the crowd. From behind the curtain, Malik stepped into the light. No paper, no phone, no notes, just steady hands and a gaze trained not to lower. He walked to the microphone, took one breath, looked out at a sea of faces, and began. He spoke about labels. How since arriving at this school he had been called many things. Weird, quiet, dangerous. A few soft laughs escaped, not in mockery but in recognition of how easily such labels are tossed. He said he hadn't come to make trouble, just to learn, to graduate like everyone else. He admitted he wasn't perfect, that he'd felt anger, known hurt, but if the only version of his story people believed was the one told by others, then they didn't really know him at all. As he scanned the audience, the room grew still. Students who had once whispered, once stared, were now silent, listening. Malik spoke about the place he came from, where silence was a kind of armor, where survival often meant not being seen. But here, in this place, he had learned that silence could be just as dangerous. Silence, he said, lets other people write your story for you. He wasn't a hero. He didn't want to be feared. But if someone felt uneasy around him just because he looked different or acted different, maybe that fear didn't start with him. Maybe it lived inside them. There was a pause, long and solid. Then he took one more breath and said, if you've ever assumed someone was dangerous just because they weren't like you, maybe you should ask them who they really are. Don't judge on whispers or edited clips or rumors. You might be missing the chance to understand someone real. Then he stepped back from the mic. No one clapped. Not yet. There was a hush, like the room itself was holding its breath. And then, from somewhere in the middle, a single clap broke through, then another, and another. Soon the entire auditorium was applauding, not loud, not frenzied, but honest. On his way out, a younger student blocked his path and asked wide-eyed, "You really know how to fight?" Malik smiled, calm and quiet. "I trained to be ready, not to hurt people." The kid nodded a bit awkwardly. "Can you teach me? I don't want to be scared anymore." Malik looked at him a moment, then nodded. "First lesson, don't let fear make you shrink." They walked together down the hall, not as legend and admirer, but as two people learning how to walk taller in a world that tries to push you small. That day was the last of the semester. The bell rang and the school exploded into a chorus of laughter, locker doors, and the thunder of sneakers racing for the exit. But Malik didn't move right away. He stayed by his locker, still and listening, as if taking in the air of a place that had finally stopped whispering about him. No more eyes glued to his back, no more silence coated in suspicion, no more fear. Something had changed. Reggie came to pick him up in the same old beat-up car, but when Malik climbed in, Reggie handed him an envelope. "School sent this. Read it." Malik opened it. Inside was an official invitation to join the student advisory group for anti-bullying and community programs at Millstone High. Malik looked up. Reggie raised an eyebrow. "Still think you're the dangerous one?" Malik smiled. Not a guarded grin, not a mask, but something true, something earned. "No, now they think I have a voice." The next week, as students slowly returned from break, subtle changes began to appear. A new board had been posted in the main hallway, bright letters asking, "Want to share your story?" Beneath it, blank slips for students to anonymously write what they'd been through. The first note was short, neat. "I stayed quiet when my friend got bullied. I want to do better now." Malik walked past it that day and paused. He didn't know who wrote it. He didn't need to. Because he understood change doesn't arrive all at once, but when someone begins it, it spreads. In Reggie's old beat-up boxing gym, the same boy from earlier, Jonah, arrived for his first lesson. His feet were awkward, his fists unsure, but his eyes lit up like someone had finally flipped the switch inside him. Malik crouched, tying Jonah's gloves, and asked, "What's today's lesson?" Jonah nodded, thoughtful. "Don't shrink no matter what they say." Malik nodded back. "Exactly. And don't just learn to fight back. Learn to stand firm." A quiet boy had made a whole school listen. Not with yelling, not with fists, but by standing steady in his truth, even when no one believed in him, because sometimes the quietest ones carry the loudest truths.